Good Friday afternoon. Well, the game today is Return Fire. It was the first PlayStation game that I owned, and I believe it's a port of what was originally a 3DO game. But really, who the fuck had a 3DO? I think this version may have been tweaked to be a little bit easier to play. The 3DO version may have had only one vehicle of each type, while the PlayStation version has three, but don't quote me on that. Now, Return Fire is essentially a capture the flag game. You can opt to capture the flag in single-player stages or attempt to capture an opponent's flag before he captures yours in multiplayer stages. And I really wish they would have revived this game on the PlayStation Network or Xbox Live Arcade with online multiplayer options. When I originally bought this game in 1996, I was deciding between this and Resident Evil, and I eventually chose Return Fire because the long box looked the best and because it got a perfect score in GamePro. And if you remember, when PlayStation games first came out, there were three types of long boxes. Some were the fragile, hard plastic, oversized CD cases like the Sega Saturn used. Some were heavy cardboard, similar to an oversized early DVD case, and then some others were made of a more flexible plastic akin to modern DVD and Blu-ray cases, and they had a pronounced PlayStation ridge, I guess you would call it, along the left edge of the case. And Return Fire was in the latter of these cases, and that is the type of case I preferred. But it really wouldn't matter much in the end, because within probably 6 months of this, all games were in the small CD style jewel cases. But this is a pretty fun game, and while Resident Evil has become a classic and Return Fire was largely forgotten about, I definitely made the right decision, because I've had more fun with this game over the years than I ever had with Resident Evil. And in one game you can play as a man who moved like a tank, and then the other game you can play as a tank who actually moves like a tank. So I believe I know which one I would choose. Now, we've got a list of topics to go over, including Nintendo's Direct conference, so let's get started. And the first thing I want to talk about is Joe Biden has said that he sees no legal reason why violent video games couldn't be taxed. And a lot of people are pissy about it, apparently. But before the knee-jerk reactions, you have to remember the context in which he said this. He made the statement as an off-the-cuff remark when asked about what some Bible thumper dreamed up. I think some reverend came up with this plan to tax violent video games, and then the taxes from that would go to victims of gun violence. But it's an empty statement. Joe Biden is not a lawmaker. He's the vice president, and the vice president is part of the executive branch, not the legislative branch. And there's no violent video game tax that I'm aware of in the rough draft form of a bill, and there's no such bill introduced or awaiting vote in the House, let alone the Senate. And further, Biden is referring to legal reason in the most primitive sense, in that the Constitution allows for two types of taxation, direct and indirect. And a tax on violent video games would be an excise tax, which is a form of indirect taxation. The same as taxes on cigarettes, gas, alcohol, and so on. And that differs from a sales tax, which is also a type of indirect taxation. However, when you're talking about a form of media being taxed, due to the nature of its content, it would almost certainly become a First Amendment issue, in that the tax would be accused of trying to stifle or control certain types of speech. And additionally, the lobbyists are on our side in this matter, so it's not going to happen anytime soon. In the meantime, just keep giving IGN those clicks, and they'll keep sensationalizing nonsense stories. And now, this next one is for the Wii U and Nintendo fanboys who were maintaining some delusional hope that Grand Theft Auto 5 was going to be announced for the Wii U on May the 16th. Well, if you look in the corner of your PC screen there, you'll see it is now May the 17th, so the 16th is coming on. And here we are with no announcement of a Wii U version of the game. And just as I said, no PlayStation 4 or next Xbox port was announced either. There have been, however, indications that the game will appear on PC. Most recently, Amazon has listed the game for PC for pre-order on a few of its international sites. At this point, I think it's safe to say that the PC version is probably 95% likely, and I believe the last time that I stated odds or likelihood, I had the PC version at 80%. But I would say the PC version is 95% likely at this point. Wii U version drops from what I said last time, 15% down to 5%, and the PlayStation 4 and next Xbox versions remain unchanged at 10% likelihood of seeing the game. But Wii U guys, come on. You're losing more games lately than you're getting. And for some reason you thought you were going to get Grand Theft Auto 5? Come on. You guys are sad. But I'll tell you what I'll do. I will give you a freebie that you can troll with. You can take this and troll with it. Now, the next time someone tells you that third-party games don't sell well on the Wii U, tell them that Wii U owners bought Injustice at a rate of 1 copy for every 115 Wii U owners. That's nearly double that of Xbox 360 owners, who bought it at a rate of 1 copy for every 220 consoles or owners. Now, it won't win you any arguments because you guys are on the losing side, but it might slow them down enough until your help arrives, at which point being right doesn't mean shit anymore and it's all just a numbers game. And you can kind of bully the other guys off your Wii U articles. So, the next topic pertains mostly, once again, to Wii U guys. And EA currently has no games in development for the Wii U. DICE may or may not have bullshitted everyone about Frostbite and the Wii U, and there's a Frostbite engine for mobile devices. But really, guys, why make 5 videos crying about it, or to hear you guys tell it, exposing EA? Do you really think that if you do a good enough job exposing their bullshit and your YouTube video that they're going to turn over a new leaf and say, well, gee whiz, Dr. Trey really got us. I guess we have to start making Wii U games now. Fuck no, they're not going to do that. You're not getting the games. At this point, it's really nothing but sour grapes, and you're just making yourselves look bad. Look, the bottom line is this. There's some bitterness going on between Nintendo and EA, probably. The companies usually air their dirty laundry to the public. No, not until years after the fact. So why do you think that EA would start doing that now? And at the end of the day, it's really no one's fault but Nintendo's. And not because they wouldn't partner with EA for online services, but because they backed themselves into a corner of irrelevance. The fact that EA is able to get their panties in a wad and give Nintendo the cold shoulder is really just a testament to how irrelevant Nintendo is becoming to everyone besides you Nintendo fans. Do you honestly think that EA could afford to ignore Sony or Microsoft? But they can certainly afford to ignore Nintendo. Anyway, Review Tech USA was probably right when he said you'll get EA games after the install base grows, just like the Wii. Also, like the Wii, you'll probably only get titles, though, that EA thinks will sell well on your platform, which unfortunately for you guys aren't their biggest releases that the rest of us are getting. But, like I said, Nintendo made their bed more than 15 years ago, and they've been sleeping in it ever since. But I guess the mattress is getting a little bit lumpy now that it isn't stuffed with all that cash from the Wii. Oh, and while I was getting this video ready, it looks like an EA senior engineer has called the Wii U crap. And just add that to the growing list. And really, guys, I try to control myself and not troll you Wii U guys, but when it's this easy, it's hard not to. But specifically, the guy said the Wii U is crap, less powerful than an Xbox 360, poor online store, weird tablet, Nintendo are walking dead at this point. And that was on Twitter that he said that. And Microsoft's next Xbox will be shown next Tuesday, and I'm pretty excited about that. And I'll probably not be buying an Xbox this time unless it's just too amazing to pass up. But regardless, I do want to see the thing and see what it can do. And The Verge has reported today information it learned via an anonymous source that the next Xbox will be smaller in design and smaller and denser in design, and will have redesigned controllers with a flattened appearance. Now, I didn't think that the controllers were going to be redesigned, and I thought the 360 controllers were nearly perfect aside from the D-pad, but Microsoft has always been pretty good with the ergonomics of their products, so I wouldn't be too worried. What I would be worried about, though, is the suggestion that the next Xbox will use smaller tiles to more closely resemble those coming to the Windows 8.1 update. And live tiles are really shit for use on any device other than a tablet or a phone. And stylistically, I can appreciate the clean, minimalistic look, but that should apply only aesthetically and not try to use the same bullshit functionality. I assume they'll want to encourage you to navigate the dashboard with Connect 2.0 as if the air in front of you were actually a touchscreen, but no thanks. I don't want that, as that's kind of a stupid approach to design, and it favors finding convoluted ways of doing simple functions using gestures and voice instead of finding simple ways to do complex functions with your controller. And just a short bit here about Metro Last Light. The developers of that game, 4A Games, were able to complete their project on 10% of the budget of competitors, according to former THQ president Jason Rubin. And now Rubin would have insight into the situation because he was his company THQ was set to publish the game before going under, and the publishing rights were sold to, I believe, Deep Silver. Rubin claims that the game's budget was less than what other games spend on one cutscene. And to me, that part specifically sounds more like he's overstating things to get his point across, but I don't doubt that 4A was able to make the game on roughly 10% of the budget of the biggest games in the industry. And this all goes back to what I've said in other videos, that as the market drops a bit and levels off to sustainable sales numbers, consumers still buying the games are going to expect the same quality as they've been accustomed to, and having the same advances in game design that they've likewise enjoyed over the same period of time. And these developers are going to have to figure out how to do more with less. And this will be essential, I believe, across the entire industry going forward. Hopefully, though, 4A does well enough with Last Light to at least get themselves some decent office space. And finally, the last thing I want to talk about is this morning's Nintendo Direct. And I'll be honest, 95 or 99 even % of the conference I could have not cared any less about. The only thing that I was remotely interested in was the Luigi DLC, and the fact that there is going to be Luigi DLC is really old news. But really, how long does it take to release the fucking DLC? When they first showed it a couple months ago, or however long it was, I was only half paying attention, and I just assumed that it would be out within a week or so. I mean, it's DLC for a 2D platformer. How long does it take? But hopefully it will be pretty robust as far as content goes, since it's $20, which seemed kind of pricey to me. The other semi-important thing that I took from this Direct was the implication that Nintendo's small E3 conference, where it will address the media, will not be televised, since Iwata mentions that around the time of E3 he will be back with a special Nintendo Direct for the fans. And it's kind of cool, I suppose, that Nintendo has partnered with Best Buy to let fans play demos of games from E3, and what I assume will be special kiosks set up in the stores. But on the other hand, why can't fans just play the damn demos on the Wii U? I mean, the internet does exist after all. And did the Sega partnership with Nintendo that was announced this morning mean that Sonic games will now be exclusive to Nintendo platforms? And if so, I mean, that's a decent move. It's a pretty good move, but it's also boring. I really don't give a shit about Sonic. It's almost like the games play themselves and you just hit a button every now and then. But that's not why it was boring. It's boring because what does such a partnership accomplish? Maybe it helps Sega out, but what does Nintendo get out of the deal? I really don't think Nintendo got much out of this deal, because Nintendo always got Sonic games anyway. Why bother with picking up more content that is so similar to what you already have and calling it exclusive? If that is going to be the case. Nintendo satisfied no one really but their relatively small existing audience without providing anyone else with a compelling reason to buy or at least be interested in buying a Wii U. And that's all for this series until next week. I do realize that this turned into mostly a Nintendo related video, but hey, don't blame me. This series is based on interesting stuff I see in the media and in the community, and the overwhelming majority of stuff over the past week that interested me was based on Nintendo. Now there is a Vita discussion coming tomorrow, and also I would like to give a thank you to Black Bond for allowing me to post my last video, what suggested split could mean for Sony and PlayStation brand, as a response to his latest video, Too Fat to Think, Flagging and Fearing, where he talks about fat gamers' reaction to the suggested Sony split, as well as his reaction to comments Black Bond himself made. So thank you, Black Bond, for allowing my response to go up.